Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My dad, stepmom, stepbrother, and I were living in the house my mother originally owned. I moved out after my stepbrother took the box that had all of his mother's jewelry out of his mother's closet and concealed it inside my closet. I had no idea about it until my stepmom walked into my room and asked me one more time if I still insisted on not letting my stepbrother share the car my dad gave me. I said no, and she said, "Okay then casually walked to my closet, opened it, and pulled out her jewelry box and started yelling. I freaked out, asking what was going on. Dad came into the room and she started crying, claiming I stole her entire jewelry box and was planning to sell it. I was stunned. I swore on my deceased mother I didn't steal anything, yet my dad didn't believe me. My stepmom demanded I get out of the house, and I had to leave because of the pressure. My stepbrother admitted putting the box inside my closet and bragged about it. I lived with my uncle for 7 years. I missed my room, backyard, and my mother's memories in that house. My stepbrother took over everything. My dad didn't attempt to connect for years and kept calling me a thief, until recently when I visited my uncle's and he happened to be there. He looked thin and exhausted. He said he found out my stepmom set me up and apologized for not believing me then. He said he forgave her and hoped I'd forgive him, and he won't forgive himself if I don't. He then talked about having debts and needing money to pay off debts or he'd lose the house and asked to borrow money from me. I got quiet. Then I asked why can't they sell the jewelry box they accused me of stealing, the car he took back. Heck, where's my stepbrother when they need him? My dad shook his head and asked if my mom would want for me to see him homeless, with no help, or worse, see the house she built and her memories there go to waste. I said I won't pay after they kicked me out of my mother's house because stepmom didn't want me there. You must be wondering where my stepbrother is now. He's dead. He moved to another town, became a police officer for 4 years, conned widowed women out of their money and houses, robbed them blind, and took possession of their legal documents and falsified them to his own benefits. He passed away suddenly at the age of 33, so he didn't enjoy his ill-gotten gains for long. My dad and uncle agreed that by paying I'm saving my mother's house, but it's no longer her house after my stepmom turned it into a shrine for her son, who she calls a hero, and used my room as storage for his things. When I walked in for the first time after years, I felt nothing. The connection is no longer there. I still refused to pay, and we had an argument, then I left. My uncle's saying I'm making a mistake by thinking irrationally and in a spiteful manner, and should consider that my dad and stepmom are helpless, sick, grieving, and need help. Am I the a-hole? I call this karma. They kicked OP out after OP's stepmom and stepbrother set OP up and accused OP of stealing, and now has the audacity to ask OP for help. OP's father never tried to reach out to apologize to OP, and only apologized out of what he thought was necessary to get the money for the house that they kicked OP out of. And what about stepmom? She needs to apologize too. Anyway, OP should not move a finger to help those people. Not the a-hole. My dad shook his head and asked if my mom would want for me to see him homeless with no help, or worse, see the house she built and her memories there go to waste. Would your mom want to see you kicked out of her home, left homeless with no help or contact from your father for 7 years, while another woman and son destroyed and spoiled the memories in the house she built? Oh wait, that already happened. Your father poorly chose a woman and her son, who were both evil, horrible characters over you. They both ended up sucking the life out of him, and in the end, he chose to forgive her for it and ask you to also. Yeah, no. Some things are forever unforgivable, and I'd say this falls into that category. I'm so very sorry that you had this man as your father. Not the a-hole. Your dad knew all along. He's just realized he hitched his wagon to the wrong horse and is crawling back because he's in debt. The kind of man who would forgive someone for framing his son for a crime is not someone you want as a father. The "what would your mother want" is the worst kind of hypocrisy. I'm gonna guess she wouldn't have wanted you to be thrown out by him and his new bit of skirt, but it didn't seem to bother him then. If you can afford and want to, I would either buy it from your dad or let them foreclose and buy it then, but I wouldn't give him a single penny otherwise. Buy the house and kick them the hell out and reclaim it, if you can or if you want to, or don't. They burned bridges years ago, and you don't have to rebuild if you don't want to. So, your dad found out that you were set up and wronged. And did he attempt to contact you, apologize, reconnect? No, not until he needed you. Yeah, no, not the a-hole. My husband Rich and I have been married for 15 years. We have 2 children together, ages 13 and 11. Rich has 2 children from his marriage with his late wife, May. My stepkids are 24 and 23. My stepson is the oldest, stepdaughter is the youngest. When Rich first found out he was going to be a father, he started a scrapbook for his son that had photos and written memories, and little mementos added in that he continued throughout the next 25 years. He did the same for his other 3 children as well. This book documents everything from fun memories to sweet and heartfelt ones, to even some more heartbreaking ones, like the loss of May. My husband has decided the scrapbook will be his gift to his son for his 25th birthday. He included all sorts of family photos and mementos in this scrapbook, including since we got married and had our kids. But both my stepkids have been pretty clear that they do not have a fondness for me or for their half-siblings, and they have no trace of us in their homes. When he moved out, he left behind photos he was in that included me and my children, his half-siblings. And when my husband mentioned he had forgotten some photos, my stepson replied he had double and triple checked and had everything he wanted. My stepdaughter was a little more clear, and she actually tossed any unwanted photos in the trash before she moved out. On their social media, they post family photos, but funnily enough, they never have me or their half-siblings included. They never acknowledge us online at all. My stepkids both also said they'd like it if their dad didn't bring us, because if he's visiting, they'd like to see him and only him. My husband brushed off that comment by saying he could stop by on his own too, but they'd never see the rest of us if we didn't visit. I'll say right here, I was not an affair partner, nor did I ever expect the kids to forget about their mom or replace her with me. Nor did I expect my husband to. I did not push myself on them. The kids never spoke out against us getting married, or brought any issues to me or my husband about us. And we did talk to them. It really only became apparent after they became adults. So when my husband brought up that he was going to gift the scrapbook to his son for his 25th birthday, I asked him if he was sure, and he was like, why not? His son would love it, and he couldn't wait for us all to go through it together. I told him I wasn't so sure he'd love all of it, given his refusal to have photos of me or the kids in his home. He told me it's not like he could remove them. I didn't comment. He asked me what I expected, and then asked if I thought he'd rip those pages out or something. I said yes. He asked why I was being so negative, and I told him that given the last several years, I really didn't think the gift would be received the way he's expecting. My husband told me my negativity was way too much, and he was unhappy with me thinking of his kids like that. Am I the a-hole? It's critical to have open and honest communication, especially when it comes to family dynamics. OP is coming from a place of insight into a delicate situation, and sometimes being honest can seem harsh, but it's necessary. OP's husband is likely trying to create an idealized version of his family, and while that's understandable, it's not in touch with the current reality. OP is simply being the voice of reason, and that's important, even if it's difficult for him to accept right now. Not the a-hole. Your hubs is in denial, as others are saying. I think it might be best to let it go at this point, though. Hopefully the son doesn't destroy the scrapbook. Not the a-hole. Your husband is in major denial. R.E. How his kids feel about you and their half-siblings. That said, if he's been on giving this gift, he can knock himself out. But his son will probably rip out the pages with pictures he doesn't want, best case. Or it may put a rift between him and his dad, worst case. I truly don't understand what your husband is thinking here. Not the a-hole. I think you have handled this in the best way you possibly can. You have no delusion about your relationship with his children and the relationship they want to have with you. But unfortunately, your husband is still operating under the idea that you have successfully become one happy blended family. It's sad that's not the case, but it's good you can see that clearly. I say let this lie. You've made your opinion known. If he still follows through with giving this gift, then it's on him to deal with any disappointment he receives from them. I, male 17, have been hanging out with my friend from school, Barbara, female 17, quite a lot lately. We have 3 classes together and enjoy each other's company a lot. I'm going to be completely honest when I say Barbara is a bit of a troublemaker. I've known this throughout my high school life, but only ever thought she was a troublemaker in a fun sort of way. For the past few months, Barbara and I have been going to each other's houses a lot. During this time, random things at my house started to go missing. Headphones, books, one of my hats, etc. All started vanishing. My parents, male 56 and female 53, and sister, female 16, all chalked this up to just misplacements, and I thought the same as well. I'll also point out all this stuff started going missing around the time Barbara started coming over, but I thought this was just a coincidence at the time. A few weeks ago, my mom's favorite watch completely disappeared without a trace. We searched high and low, but didn't find it anywhere. The watch had a very distinctive look to it, since it was from overseas and given to my mom by her younger brother, who has since passed away. She was completely distraught at losing it, since it was the last thing he gave her before he passed away. So, a few days ago, I was at Barbara's house, and we were chilling in her room. At some point, her mom called her, and she left me alone. While she was away, I saw something shiny on her desk. It was largely covered by books, but I got curious and took a closer look. Lo and behold, it's a watch identical to my mom's. I was so shocked at seeing it that I didn't think twice and just put it in my pocket. When Barbara came back, I made an excuse about needing to be home and left. I showed the watch to my parents that night, and my mom confirmed it was hers. My mom thanked me many times over for finding it, and I made up a lie about finding it under the kitchen sink. The day after this at school, Barbara was actually really different around me. She seemed guarded and kept giving me one-word answers when I attempted to have a conversation with her. At the end of the day, she told me I was sneakier than she thought. I just told her that she surprised me. She actually laughed at this and told me that she wasn't a thief and that she thought we could trust each other. She then said that she didn't plan on keeping it very long and would have returned it sooner or later, and that she expected me to have more faith in her. I told her that I felt conflicted, and the conversation sort of fizzled out. I told some of my friends about it later, since I'm still far too ashamed to tell my family and especially my mom. Most of the guys think that Barbara is pretty crazy, but one of them, John, male 17, brought up the fact that I was an a-hole for not trying to hold a conversation with Barbara before taking the watch, and I'm a bigger a-hole still for not being transparent with my mom on how the watch got back. Am I the a-hole? OP is not in the wrong, but he must tell her mother and father. This girl will probably try again with other things. She stole from OP's family, then said, "I thought you trusted me more." She stole it. She doesn't deserve the explanation of why OP took her property back. Not the a-hole, but tell your mom the truth. Don't protect someone who would throw you under a bus in a heartbeat and who will continue to steal from others. Your family needs to know the truth about where everything has disappeared to, and Barbara needs to be held accountable for stealing. Maybe a visit to her parents and the local police. This girl is not a friend. Do not ever allow her into your home again, and end the friendship now. The last thing you need is her stealing more things, or even worse, trying to frame you for something. Not the a-hole. She is bad news, and I wouldn't let her in my house again. And tell your friend that when she steals something of his, he can have that talk with her. Not the a-hole. She's been stealing your stuff. She said that to guilt you, but she definitely was not going to return it, and won't return any of your other stuff either. You probably should not hang out with her anymore. My 32 male mother lives out of state and comes twice a year to visit my wife, 31 female, and I, as well as my sister who lives nearby too. She usually spends like 4 to 5 nights here. While she's here, she tends to make some off-the-cuff judgmental comments. My mom has always been a little nitpicky about things, and I've handled it by ignoring her. It's a few comments per trip, and otherwise she's okay and helpful to us. For example, I picked her up at the train station, and she immediately said, "Oops, looks like someone needs a car wash." My wife feels that more comments are directed at her because she is the woman, especially about home decor and cleaning, despite my wife also working full-time. For example, we have a junk drawer that has admittedly gotten overfull lately. My mom said, "It's too bad I'm not here longer. I would help you organize that. I noticed it hasn't been done." Or she will come in our house and immediately start cleaning something and say she saw it was horribly dirty. Or last visit, my wife's suitcase was still out from a trip the month before, and she said, I see someone doesn't like to unpack right away." My wife takes these things really personally and is hurt. I usually try to support her behind the scenes, tell her my mother is kind of an old crone, true, and that we all just ignore her and she should too. But she recently got upset for me not saying anything back in the moment. I do want to stick up for her, but my mind is kind of slow, and my mother always slips these comments in when I'm not paying attention. I can't respond well within a few seconds when I wasn't expecting it. My wife is upset with me and says my mother can't come anymore unless I'm planning to stick up for her. Am I the a-hole for not saying something to my mother? Edited to add. My wife has asked me not to confront my mother outside of these comments, as she feels she'll receive blowback for it, and it'll look like it came from her. She wants me to respond when my mother says something in the moment. I guess I'm slow because I have trouble doing that. Also, my family is very passive-aggressive, and we almost never confront things head-on. I've tried to change that, and it ends with them just refusing to speak to me for a few months. You're the a-hole. Your mother's behavior is upsetting your wife. You can't bury your head in the sand and pretend it's not happening, and that your wife just needs to deal with it. Be a husband, and have a conversation with your mom that her comments aren't appreciated and won't be tolerated. Look at it this way. Would you walk into someone else's house and start commenting on how clean it is? If no, then you already knew the answer before you came here. You're the a-hole. This is an ongoing issue with your mother. It isn't just one or two comments that caught you off guard flat-footed. You know she's constantly criticizing. You know your wife doesn't like it. By your description, your mother sounds exhausting and unpleasant to be around. You need to grow up and have an uncomfortable conversation in which you actually tell her that her behavior bothers you. Not that it bothers your wife, that it bothers you, and that you don't want to invite her to your home to insult you. Yeah, sorry, but you're the a-hole. Coming over and starting cleaning is, I guess, a mom thing, but still super disrespectful to your wife. Just like the rest of your mom's actions. You don't need to say something in the moment, but by now you had like a million opportunities to say something before or after one of your mom's trips.